Hello, Mr. Gheorghiu.
Hello. How are you?
So you told me that when Fischer was young, he had he lost some games against Tal, but then he started to take his
Yeah,
revenge, and now
he
we'll see a
started to
game
win
with
against. Yeah.
yes. So I
Well, he
guess
started to win against everybody. Doesn't matter against him. So this is a very nice game, and it's a mini revenge, let's say, against the world champion Tal. And we'll see what happens. Tal played the Sicilian. Sicilian was, as usual, a very important defense against e4, but against Bobby was a very difficult choice and very dangerous. You can lose every game if you play Sicilian against Bobby Fischer. So we'll
okay.
see what
So
happens
he
in
chose
this
the
game.
wrong
Well,
adversary,
it happened that Tal preferred to play Sicilian, like many others, many very strong players preferred to play Sicilian.
and also
Myself
very
also, even.
aggressive.
Yeah, yeah.
Tal was an aggressive.
Sicilian gives you a good possibility to try to play for win also with black.
Okay,
So
let's see
e4, c5,
the fight.
knight c6, yeah, d4 takes, e6. That is the so-called Paulsen variation with many other possibilities. Taimanov played it for black, Anderson, Ljubojevic, myself, and so on.
So
Fischer,
Paulson, you said Paulson,
Paulsen, yes. With
but
e6 and knight c6 is the so-called Paulsen variation.
so you say the e6 and
Knight c6,
knight
yeah. This
c6.
is
This is the
yeah,
Paulson variation.
yeah.
Okay.
Knight c3.
And what is the idea here?
The idea for black is to try to develop later on the pieces from the king side, knight f6, bishop e7, or bishop b4, depends on the position.
so
There,
bishop here or here.
yeah,
Okay.
we have another
And
another
knight
possibility
here.
for black to play a6 instead of knight c6. The knight comes into play later on, and it's completely different. We'll see in some other games that
Okay.
I
Okay.
will show later.
All
So
right.
now
Let's
queen
see.
c7, g3, and already knight f6 is a small mistake. It was necessary to play in this position a6 first. We'll see what is the difference and why it was better to play a6 first. Because now, by playing the move g3, white's prepared later on to come with the bishop from c1 to f4 and have already quite a strong initiative in the middle game.
So the
Now knight b5 is possible. That is the difference. If the pawn was in a6, it was impossible to play knight b5.
because that
But after knight b5, knight d b5,
knight db5. Yes.
knight d b5, the queen is forced to go only to b8, because if you go to d8, you lose the pair of bishop after knight d6 check, and it's already very unpleasant for black. Yeah. So knight b8.
Okay. So that was played in the game. Yes,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was
played.
playing the game. Yes. Queen b8, and now bishop f4.
And now I see the
Now is
difference.
the difference, because
Yes.
if now you play the move e5 after bishop g5 is very unpleasant for black. Bishop g5, bishop e7, for instance, and then white takes in f6 and has a very strong initiative and probably a very, a very good chance to win already the game.
So after bishop
Bishop
g5.
g5, you have to play bishop e7, and after bishop e7, you take in f6 and knight d5, and the position is terrible for black.
I guess you take like that.
Yes, no, that is even stronger for white, because now you can play also knight d6 check, and it's crushing for black, for white.
Oh,
Yeah,
knight here we check.
yeah. It
Okay.
was necessary to take with the pawn in f6. But
Okay.
if you
Okay.
take with the pawn in f6 after knight d5, is
Still
the
the same.
position is very bad for black already. Yeah.
Okay.
So now he played knight e5. Yeah, knight e5.
Okay.
And this is very tricky move, bishop e2, because if somebody plays first g3, everybody would expect you to put the bishop in g2, not in e2. It's a little bit, strange, the move order for white, but it's very strong, very good. So now we'll see the game is almost forced, Now it was probably better to play even now the move a6, but after a6, after queen d4, the game is very unpleasant for black. You see, for instance, queen d4, a6. If you play a6 now, a6, no, not d6, a6,
x6, yes.
a6,
Um,
ashas, a6,
oh, yes, sorry. Just a second. a6, yes.
a6, queen d4. Queen d4 is very strong. Now you attack the knight from e5. You have to play d6 is the only move, and now castle queenside. And now the black is probably lost already, because if you take in b5 after bishop takes e5, the game is terrible for black.
You have checkmate here, so
Yeah,
can
you
attack.
lose at least a pawn, and the position is destroyed for black. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what was in the game.
So he played bishop knight if, yeah, and now play bishop c5, and from this moment the game is, as I told you, is almost forced. Now the idea is to take immediately in e5 and come very quickly with the pawns in the center. Bishop takes, queen takes, f4. That is the idea. Now the only move is queen b8 again. Yes, and now e5. White is coming very, very quickly. You
So
have to play a6, because after knight g8, knight e4, the game was crashing for black. Black was completely lost probably. So now you take in f6, take there, takes in g7, rook g8, everything is forced. Queen knight e4, bishop e7, and now queen d4. No, white domination is complete. You have fantastic position with white, and you
even
can.
so, black has two bishops.
Yeah, the bishop from c8 doesn't play at all for the moment.
Yes.
So now rook a4, and now after rook a4, knight f6 check. Terrible move, because now you are forced to take in f6. If you play king d8,
You lose
you
the
lose
queen.
immediately after queen b6 check, and you lose at least a rook.
So if you
Play now queen b6 check. You have to play queen c7. You trade queens, and knight take g8, and rook up for white.
rook up, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And later on queen from g7. So now you have to takes, queen c7, and now again very strong move from Fischer. Castle queenside. Yeah, he gives the pawn from a2 for a very strong initiative.